All right, get ready, because today we're diving deep into the Twilight world.
Oh, Twilight. I love Twilight.
But we're not just rehashing the love triangle, Edward, Bella, Jacob.
Right.
We're going deeper.
Okay.
It's more like Vampire Politics 101.
Ooh, interesting.
We're going to be looking at the power dynamics and moral dilemmas that go way beyond just Team Edward versus Team Jacob.
I like it.
So get ready to think.
Yes.
What I think is so fascinating about Twilight is that under the surface of this supernatural romance, there's this complex exploration of power,
Yes.
morality, and even what it means to be human,
Right.
even when you're technically undead.
Exactly.
That's what we're going to unpack today.
Okay.
And to help us, we have this awesome analysis.
Oh, cool.
It's called Volturi versus Cullen family, the power struggle in the Twilight vampire world.
That sounds very thorough.
It is.
Okay.
And we're going to be using it as our guide.
Oh, great.
So we're going to look at these two iconic vampire families.
Okay.
The Volturi and the Cullens.
All right.
And how their completely opposite philosophies create this epic clash.
Love it.
That really makes you think.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the Volturi, if you don't know, are led by Arrow, Marcus, and Caius.
Right.
And they're essentially the rulers of the vampire world.
Like vampire royalty.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They operate from their fortress in Volterra, Italy.
Oh, fancy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Enforcing this very strict code of laws that are designed to maintain vampire secrecy.
Makes sense.
And ultimately, their own power.
Yeah, it's all about power.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
They represent tradition and, I'd say, almost an authoritarian approach to governance.
Yeah, like a vampire monarchy.
Totally.
Okay, so that's the Volturi.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the Cullens,
Okay.
led by Carlisle,
Yeah.
who take a very different approach.
Like the opposite.
The opposite.
Yeah.
They choose a vegetarian lifestyle.
What?
I know.
Vegetarian vampires.
Vegetarian vampires, meaning they only feed on animal blood,
Interesting.
and they actively try to coexist with humans.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty radical.
it is.
For vampires.
Yeah, especially in a world where vampires are traditionally seen as predators.
Right, like ferocious beasts.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, this choice to abstain from human blood is more than just, like, a dietary preference.
Oh, absolutely.
It represents a fundamental challenge to, like, the Volturi's worldview.
Totally.
Like, it suggests that vampires are capable of moral choice,
Yeah.
that they can resist their base instincts
Yeah.
and choose a different path.
That's right. And you know what else is interesting about the Cullens?
What's that?
Carlisle is a doctor.
A vampire doctor.
A vampire doctor.
Okay, hold on.
I know.
We need to talk about that.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Carlisle's backstory is really key to understanding the Cullen family's philosophy.
Okay.
So as a human,
Yeah.
he was a very compassionate physician.
Right.
And even after becoming a vampire, he held on to those values.
That's amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
He believes that vampires can find redemption.
Wow.
And so he created a family that reflects those beliefs.
Okay, so we have these two families.
Yeah.
Totally different, total opposites.
Right.
Different values, different ways of life.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a recipe for conflict, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this conflict comes to a head in Breaking Dawn
Oh, here we go.
when the Volturis discover Renesmee,
Renesmee?
Edward and Bella's daughter.
Right, the half vampire, half human child.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because she's a hybrid.
Right.
They see her as an immortal child,
Oh,
which is a direct threat to their most important law,
which is?
keeping the existence of vampires a secret from humans.
Okay, so break this down for me.
Sure.
Why is the term immortal child such a big deal to the Volturi?
So immortal children are a big deal because they can't mature
Yeah.
and they can't control their thirst.
Oh, I see.
So they were considered a major risk for exposure.
Back in the day, they caused a lot of chaos and attracted unwanted attention from humans,
Right.
which led to purges and much stricter laws.
Oh, wow.
So the Volturi's fear, and maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, is that Renesmee could repeat history
Right.
and jeopardize their very carefully constructed world order.
So it's not just about this one child.
Right.
It's about the Volturi maintaining their power
Exactly.
and control over the entire vampire world.
Precisely.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. They see any deviation from their rules as like a crack in their foundation.
Yeah.
And they'll use any means necessary to maintain that control.
Oh, I see.
And this is where we see the really stark contrast between their approach to power and the Cullens.
So how do the Cullens respond to this threat?
Well, they don't just roll over
Right.
and let the Volturi dictate what happens to their family.
Good.
Their response is a perfect example of their contrasting philosophy.
Okay.
Instead of just bowing to the Volturi's authority.
They choose diplomacy and alliance building.
Really?
Yeah, they gather allies from other vampire covens.
Wow.
And even werewolf packs,
No way.
emphasizing the strength they find in unity and understanding.
It's almost like they're saying, hey, we can solve this through dialogue and collaboration, not through threats and violence.
Exactly.
That kind of makes you think of real-world conflicts, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The clash between the Volturi and the Cullens can be seen as this reflection of bigger societal debates about authority versus individual freedom,
Right.
tradition versus progress.
Wow. Yeah, I'm starting to see why fans have made so many connections between this vampire saga and real-world power struggles. It's like Twilight is holding up a mirror to our own society's challenges.
Exactly.
Wow.
The conflict between these two families is so much more than just this supernatural showdown.
Right.
It's a story about different ways to govern, the tension between individual choice and collective responsibility,
Yeah.
and this age-old question of how to maintain order in a diverse and often unpredictable world.
So we have this epic clash of philosophies,
Yeah.
this battle between control and compassion, all set against this backdrop of a hidden supernatural world.
That's exciting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
Well, next we're going to look at how this clash is visually represented throughout the story.
Oh, okay.
The settings, costumes, even just the dialogue. These aren't just random choices. These are deliberate decisions made by Stephanie Meyer and the filmmakers to highlight the core differences between the Volturi and the Cullens.
I can't wait to hear more about this.
Me too.
Let's take a look at how this story uses those details to bring this conflict to life.
Yes, let's do it.
All right?
Welcome back to our deep dive into Twilight.
I'm ready for more.
So we've been talking about this clash between the Volturi and the Cullens.
Right, the vampires.
These two families with very different views on power.
And morality?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's see how their philosophies are visually represented in the story.
Okay, you mentioned like setting and costumes and even the dialogue.
Yeah.
How do those things play a role?
Well, remember that contrast between the Volturi's fortress in Volterra and the Cullens' home in Forks?
Yes.
Those settings,
Yeah.
they're not just random backdrops.
I see.
They're visual metaphors
Whoa.
that speak volumes about each family's values.
Okay, so like the Volturi's castle.
Yeah.
All dark and shadowy and stone.
Exactly. It's like a physical representation of their authority.
Right.
Meant to inspire awe and maybe even a little fear.
Right, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Volturi's power is rooted in tradition and control. And their fortress, with its heavy decor and oppressive atmosphere, reflects that.
It feels ancient and unchanging.
Yes, and almost suffocating.
And then you have the Cullens' home.
Yeah.
Warm and inviting, full of light.
Exactly.
It's in the woods, lots of greenery, open spaces.
It shows their connection to nature and their desire for a harmonious existence.
Yeah.
It shows their belief in growth and change and individual expression.
Yeah, their house feels alive.
Yes,
So
vivacious.
it's like their homes are outward expressions of their inner worlds.
Precisely.
Okay, that makes sense.
And this visual storytelling also extends to their clothing.
Oh, interesting.
The Volturi are always in these dark, flowing robes,
Yeah.
often black and gray.
Yeah, like they're constantly reminding everyone who's in charge.
Exactly.
Can you imagine trying to reason with someone dressed like that?
No, they project this aura of authority and distance.
Yeah, exactly how the Volturis want to be perceived.
And then there's the Cullens.
Yeah, who dress like normal people.
Right, more contemporary casual clothing.
Clothing in
They want to fit in with human society. They're not trying to stand out.
or intimidate.
Yeah, their style is approachable.
Right, understated.
Even something as simple as clothing can be a powerful way to communicate a character's ideology.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
And don't forget about the dialogue.
Oh, right.
Aero, the leader of the Volturi,
Wow.
he speaks so formally,
Right.
almost theatrically.
Yeah, very calculated.
Carefully chosen words, pauses.
It's like he's always scheming, like
Mhm.
playing a game.
His dialogue is a reflection of his personality.
Okay.
Calculating, strategic, always seeking control.
Yeah, he uses language like a weapon
To assert his dominance.
to stay in control.
Yeah.
And then you have Carlisle.
Yeah.
So straightforward and honest.
Empathetic.
Yes.
He just wants to connect with people.
He's not trying to manipulate anything.
No, he wants to build bridges, not walls.
That contrast in their dialogue is so interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
It really shows that core conflict.
Between the families.
Yeah.
One's about dominance and control.
And the other one's about compassion and understanding.
It's fascinating how even the way they talk reinforces these big themes.
And all of these details, from the setting to the costumes to the dialogue, aren't just random choices.
Okay.
Stephenie Meyer, in her writing and the directors in the movies, they made deliberate decisions to create this incredibly rich and nuanced portrayal of these two opposing forces.
I remember reading an interview with Stephenie Meyer where she talked about creating the Volturi and the Cullens to show the two ends of the moral spectrum in the vampire world.
She saw Carlisle as the symbol of hope.
Yeah.
You know, like proof that vampires can be more than just monsters.
Right.
They can choose compassion. They can find redemption.
That's a cool idea.
He can contribute to society in a positive way.
And then there's Arrow.
Yeah.
Who's like the warning sign.
Right. The dangers of unchecked power.
The allure of control.
He shows how power without compassion can corrupt anyone.
Yeah.
Even the most well-intentioned.
And the filmmakers really amplified those ideas with their visuals.
Those dark costumes for the Volturi. And the more natural, normal clothes of the Cullens.
Like they're saying, look, these are two very different ways to be a vampire.
Exactly.
One's all about fear and domination.
And the other's about empathy and connection. And that's what makes this story so compelling. It's not just good versus evil. It's about the gray areas of morality, the complexities of power, the choices we make when things get tough.
Okay, so we've talked about their philosophies, the symbolism, and even the creator's intent. But how do these opposing forces impact the larger world of Twilight?
That's a great question.
And what does it mean for us as the audience?
We'll explore all of that in the final part of our deep dive.
Awesome.
We'll look at the cultural impact of these characters, fan interpretations, and the questions they raise about our own world.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned.
Okay, welcome back to the deep dive.
We're back.
We've been talking about Twilight.
Yes.
Specifically, this clash between the Volturi and the Cullens.
Two very different families.
But now let's zoom out a bit.
Okay.
And talk about the bigger picture.
I like it.
How does this vampire rivalry, this conflict, how does it affect us in the real world?
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
This conflict goes beyond just the books. And it starts these conversations about authority, morality, social change.
Yeah, it's like Twilight gives us this framework to think about complex issues in our own lives.
It's become a real cultural touchstone.
It has.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how fans have taken these characters
and
used them for social commentary.
Right.
Like some people see the Volturi as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power.
It's like they represent those systems that put control above everything else.
Right. Authoritarian regimes that prioritize order over individual freedom.
The Volturi, they demand obedience. They don't allow individual. They use force to control everyone.
It's scary.
It is. It's those hallmarks of authoritarianism.
Right. It makes sense that readers, especially those who value freedom and democracy, would see them as like a warning.
A big warning sign.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have the Cullens.
Good guys.
Yeah, they're seen as symbols of hope.
And progress.
They believe in individual choice. They accept everyone, even those who are different.
Yeah, they fight against oppression.
It's a message that resonates with people.
Especially in social justice movements.
The Cullens, they represent a different way.
Yeah.
A more grassroots approach.
They lead by example.
Right.
They inspire through compassion and action.
Building alliances based on trust and shared values.
It's slower. It's more organic.
But it's more sustainable in the end.
Because it's based on understanding.
Right, not fear.
Exactly.
It's like their story is this powerful allegory for how we can challenge the status quo. How we can advocate for a more just and equitable society.
It's a reminder that we all have a voice.
Yes.
That even when things seem impossible, we can make a difference.
That's powerful.
It is.
And this contrast, right, between the Volturi and the Cullens, it makes us think about how we approach social change.
How do we do it?
Yeah, do we use top-down control?
Like the Volturi.
Yeah, like prioritizing order and stability.
But sacrificing personal liberty.
Right. Or do we take a more bottom-up approach?
Like the Cullens.
Empowering individuals and communities to make change.
It's a question that Stephenie Meyer doesn't answer for us.
Right.
She makes us think about it.
Yeah, she gives us a lot to consider.
That's what good storytelling does.
It does.
Makes us question things.
Yeah.
Challenges our assumptions.
Makes us see the world differently.
And it leaves us with questions.
Which is what good stories should do.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our Twilight deep dive,
Yeah.
I keep thinking, what if they had to coexist?
The Volturi and the Cullens.
Yeah. Could they ever really find peace?
And what does that tell us about our own world?
Right. Our own potential to overcome our differences.
And create a more compassionate society.
Yeah. It's a lot to think about.
It is.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Into the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, into the heart of Twilight.
Yeah.
We hope you've gained a new appreciation
for this complex story.
Yeah.
And that you'll keep exploring these themes.
Even after our deep dive is over.
And remember, whether you're Team Volturi,
Team Cullen,
or somewhere in between,
there's always more to discover.
In the world of Twilight.
That's right. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.